It has been a largely open secret that many countries, and specifically the United States, have conducted psychological operations, also known as PSYOPs, on their constituents in the past. Declassified operations such as Project Monarch and the more notoriously known MK Ultra come to mind. I believe the United States government has placed us under a new PSYOP, a PSYOP centered around Charlie Kirk's death. The reason why I believe we are under a mass PSYOP right now is because the U.S. Army literally admits to it. See, in 2022, the U.S. Army, and more specifically, the 4th Psychological Operations Group, a subdivision of the Army, released a video on their official YouTube channel called Ghost in the Machine, where they explain their role in creating and manipulating memes on the internet to try and steer the public in a certain direction that would ultimately benefit the government. And I believe the rise of the Kirkification trend as a meme is a manifestation of their meddling through social media. On every platform, in every way you can think of, Charlie Kirk has been immortalized in the algorithms as a meme, a martyr, a movement. A beloved dead political figure transfigured by AI now lives on not as a person, but as an idea. A ghost in the machine, if you will. This theory becomes even more plausible if you take into consideration the events which took place before Charlie met his demise, and especially before Kirk decided to turn on Israel and kind of expose them on Patrick Bet-David's podcast after he had, supported and shilled Israel for so long. I mean, you can even find debates of him debating groypers at TPUSA. But after years of avoiding questions like the USS Liberty and America's role in the Middle East, now he decides that they're worth criticizing right before he goes to Utah Valley University where he's assassinated. I find that very hard to believe. Not to mention all the conservative political influencers who are starting to speak out against Israel around the same time, such as Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson with that Ted Cruz interview, where Ted Cruz is basically trying to convince Tucker to support Israel because he's a Christian and the Jews are blessed by God in the Bible. And of course, Tucker wasn't really buying that explanation and pushed back on mindlessly supporting Israel. Nick Fuentes was also suspiciously making a comeback on YouTube after years of being shadow banned or just outright banned. Anyone who posted Nick Fuentes content on YouTube was just literally ostracized from YouTube, taken off instantly. But now, recently, he's been able to come back, have a presence on YouTube. Many people have been posting clips of him, as well as reacting to his live streams. Nick even made it onto Piers Morgan. But he's totally blacklisted from mainstream media, right, guys? And don't forget, he tried to entrap people at January 6th by inciting them to go and storm the Capitol and disregard the police. And conveniently after this, he somehow dodged the indictment charges, which everyone else got at the event. But he's really a chud, guys. Totally. He's literally me, bro.
Is it the case that there's just nothing to charge you with, or what was
there was nothing to charge me with. I mean, they looked at charging me, but I didn't trespass. I wasn't violent. And
wouldn't that be inciting something?
But my lawyer told me I'm protected by the First Amendment for that, because it wasn't like the language was such that it wouldn't be. And also, no one else got charged with incitement. The charges were trespassing, conspiracy, all things that didn't apply to me.
Right, okay.
Actually, my lawyer says that it doesn't apply to me. But guess what? The legal requirements for incitement actually do apply to him. That means he was let off the hook because he was a federal agent after entrapping the hundreds of America First supporters that were there with him at the Capitol. Even more damning, 17 days before the January 6th incident, Nick received a Bitcoin donation of $250,000 by some anonymous French supporter, who just so happened to die a couple of months later. Furthermore, Nick also denied that Mossad had anything to do with Charlie's attack.
People that are under the impression that there was some wider conspiracy by the Jews, by Israel, to kill Charlie Kirk. And as you know, I am not convinced of this at all.
Uh-oh, Nick, it seems like you're glowing a little bit too much lately. Do you need to take some radiation pills to calm down? Yeah, definitely not a fad. Like, are you guys f***ing retarded? Jesus Christ. I think the beginning of this operation really kicked off when Kanye, aka Ye, started his quote-unquote anti-Semitic tirade on over the representation of Jewish producers in Hollywood.
Associated Press, Pixar, Miramax, HBO, New York Post, LucasArts, MSNBC, DreamWorks Animation. Now, the thing is, I skipped over maybe about 5 of them because it was just unclear on this list. The red are the executives that are Jewish at these companies.
Due to this, he was exiled from the mainstream and more notably dropped from his Adidas partnership, dropping his net worth to under $1 billion. I think this was the beginning of the Great Awakening to the JQ. Kanye also, a couple of years later, released the Hail Hitler music video and the song, and it was trending all over Twitter. I even saw clips of it on YouTube. And if you do not know, Nick and Kanye have been spotted together, talking to each other on multiple occasions. And I really don't think that any of this is just mere coincidence. It feels like a coordinated effort to AstroTurf. Even on Twitter, there was an incident with Grok, the Twitter XAI, where he turned into quote-unquote Mecha Hitler for a day or two, questioning the Holocaust as well as admitting the Jews' involvement in 9/11. To me, I believe that was not a glitch. That was deliberate conditioning to propagate these ideas. And most importantly, Charlie Kirk himself, as I've said before, he's on Patrick Bet-David's podcast, asking questions like if during the October 7th attacks that Israel issued a stand down order so that they could garner sympathy and have a valid reason to invade Gaza.
But I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. Wow. 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of Jews. Did somebody in the government say stand down? That is a legitimate, non-conspiracy question.
And even furthermore, there was already a massive awakening happening during the time that Charlie started to ask questions he normally wouldn't ask, especially after the Irina Zarutska incident, which happened less than 20 days before his assassination. Coincidentally, Irina Zarutska is also a Ukrainian refugee who fled the war that we are currently massively funding. This incident also primed everyone to react in a similar way to what would later transpire with Charlie in his situation. Not to mention that Irina Zarutska and Charlie Kirk were both injured in the neck and bled out, which at this point, I just don't think is a coincidence. I mean, the probability of something like that happening is 0 to none. Need I also mention the recent convenient prevalence of racially divisive news stories a couple of months before Kirk's death, such as the Austin Metcalf-Carmelo Anthony situation and the Shiloh Hendricks debacle that shook up all of social media. It even got so insane that both Carmelo Anthony and Shiloh Hendricks had their own Give, Send, Go pages in which both reached donations past $100,000. To me, this seemed like a spiteful competition between the racial communities, revealing the true intentions of hate behind the donations. These events strategically pitted black and white people against each other respectively, further polarizing the left versus right dialectic. And as if they were hoping to incite an outrage for white right-wing Americans with a chain of tragic events that disproportionately involved white victims. All of this leading right up to Charlie's death. Kirk was the final victim they needed to complete this ritual of white outrage. I guess you could say Charlie Kirk was the turning point that pushed conservatives to the alt-right. The Turning Point logo is also turning to the right as well. This is called Truth in Plain Sight or Revelation of the Method, where they tell you what they're doing to remove any responsibility for themselves because they already revealed it to you in plain sight, yet you refuse to believe them. This is the reason why Charlie was taken out, and I believe that not only is he a Freemason, but that he is still alive. And they faked his death through hologram technology, as demonstrated here. And quite interestingly, this particular presentation shows similar stage dimensions and shaped to Charlie's tent, which I believe they used to project his image in real time in front of the crowd. So it's not like we don't have this technology. That particular video that I just showed you was from 10 years ago. So this is not new technology. If anything, it's gotten even better since then. And because of this technology, I believe that Charlie escaped through the trap door that was next to his tent, and that his character was quietly taken off the world stage as we know it. And also, he was not a Christian, he was just playing a character. He's an actor. It's an acting role.
This man's central casting.
And very mysteriously, Utah Valley University, where he was attacked, tiled over the trap door and the general area where he was shot, even though it's a designated crime scene. Also, one of Charlie's camera guys, or whoever was working there, took the main camera that was above Charlie where he was sitting. Right after the attack, just completely ignoring the fact that Charlie was just attacked and probably should have been in shock. And instead of the police taking it, instead of the camera being taken as crime scene evidence, this guy, whoever he is, the camera guy, takes the camera that supposedly has the footage of Charlie being attacked from another angle that could possibly help the police investigation. That just doesn't add up at all. I think that camera was actually a hologram projection camera, and they wanted to remove it and tie up any loose ends before people noticed. He also was 100% there at the event in person, you know, throwing around the hats and interacting with the crowd, but they switched him out with the hologram last second when they needed the attack to occur. They also led the obvious paper trail to Mossad and the Jewish menorah, hoping that the conspiracy theorists would make the connection. And if you know anything about the occult and Freemasonry, this is what these people do, and these are their tactics. They feed you lies to control you. And maybe even lies on top of lies. It never ends with these people. And do I even need to bring up Erica Kirk and her little Fed actress sob story, fake crocodile tears, dude? It's theater, man. It's not real. I don't know what to say. It's just not real. And then just not long ago, Erica ends up meeting with Nicki Minaj, out of all people, at her event. I mean, guys, this is just Hollywood Fed slop at this point. How can you guys not see through this? And of course, Candace Owens, who is also Fed, is going after her and making this whole controversy. And quite recently, she conveniently backtracked from her whole investigation. And now people finally realize she's a Fed. Was the weird Freemason symbology not enough? Or the fact that both her and Nick are Roman Catholics? They are controlled opposition Jesuit agents that work for the Vatican. And even after his death, Kirk is being immortalized as a meme all over the internet. I find that to be very, very fishy and suspicious. Something is just off about this whole situation, and I believe it is a coordinated effort to manipulate people into a psyop. But then you would probably be wondering, what is the purpose of this psyop, and what is the end goal they are trying to get people to be manipulated into? I believe that through the disdain of a certain group of people who many believe to have taken out Charlie Kirk, that they will use that outrage as evidence to push digital ID laws and anti-Semitic hate speech laws targeting law-abiding Americans, and possibly go after the First Amendment. And as of recently, 25 states in the US are well upon their way to issuing digital ID. And my theory is that they will arrest you for speaking out against them on social media, or for something as innocent as sharing a Charlie Kirk meme. If you remember, about a year ago, the United Kingdom implemented similar laws, and many UK citizens were arrested really tyrannically and unfairly for basically just basic social media posts that went against the politically correct narrative, especially posts about promoting nationalism and speaking out against mass immigration. The UK's justification for these arrests and criminal cases were that they violated the government's strict hate speech laws and were classified as racist or spreading misinformation. With the large amount of Israeli lobbying in our country and the massive influence the ADL and other Israeli organizations have on our government, is it really far-fetched to assume that they would want to extend our hate speech laws in their favor and create a situation that is similar to what happened in the UK? I think not. I think this is totally within their reach and possible. This is why I think the chosen people exposed themselves all over social media and had this huge trend of quote unquote Jew hatred and speaking out against the JQ is because this was their plan all along. They were just using it as a tool to kind of entrap everyone on the internet who bought into this. And as you can see, their little trick is going perfectly as they planned. Their little Fed operation has propagated itself and has now become a fully organic integration into modern meme culture. All they have to do now is just play the victim. And we know damn well they're good at doing that. So the reason why they're playing the victim is so that they can legislate these laws and use it as evidence and as an excuse for these theorized newly proposed hate speech laws. And if it's tied into digital ID, then they will know exactly who you are, where you are, and they will come and arrest you for speaking out against, things that they classify as quote unquote hate speech, which we all know that means just anything that they disagree with. Once this digital ID stuff has been accepted all over the country, I predict that one day they will use this foundation of digital ID to implement a social credit score like we see in China. This will of course be done through our government's deal with Palantir, and possibly through J.D. Vance, who has been known to be heavily influenced by Peter Thiel. Canada has also begun to try to legislate certain hate speech laws, and they've actually tried to target the Bible and religion as a way to completely vilify anything that they deem as derogatory or as racist or as hateful. And of course, one of the excuses they use to implement these laws is because of anti-Semitism, right? So this isn't really too far-fetched when our neighbor, if you live in the US, is inching closer and closer to legislate laws that we would not only deem as unconstitutional, but damn near dystopian. And when it comes to digital ID, their justification for why it should be implemented into our country into certain states is that the government wants to protect children from adult websites, but also AI chatbots grooming children. That's their excuse. Yeah. Don't worry about the Epstein files though. Don't worry about Trump and all these other elites grooming your children. Let's worry about the AI chatbots doing it instead. The irony is not lost upon me here. That is obviously not the real reason why they are doing this. This is the same excuse the UK used to justify digital ID, and I believe that the US is going down the exact same route. And it's just a false excuse, fake excuse, just to implement these laws and implement more control over the people by big government. I just simply want to warn people what I think is approaching when it comes to the future of this country, and just really urge people to not give in to digital ID in any sense, in any form, because it is dystopian and because it is literally right on the horizon. I think very soon we will see the implementation of these laws. And if you've already said anti-Semitic or things that could be labeled as, hate speech towards a certain group of people, I would just be careful, because we really don't know if they will take next steps to arrest people and whatnot for it to just become a dystopia like we see in the UK. I really hope not, but it's really a possibility at this point. If you want my true opinion, I think the future for America looks really bleak right now if this stuff actually gets passed, and I will be 100% opting out of all digital ID and probably censoring myself on social media, bro, if they actually start trying to come after people. But yeah, the truth will prevail anyways. And Christ is Lord. He's coming back.